I never thought the worst thing about buying my dream house would be a woman named Brenda. The day I moved into Riverside Meadows in Orange County, California, I had everything planned perfectly. My new job at the hospital started in 2 weeks, giving me plenty of time to settle in. The 3-bedroom ranch-style home had enough space for my office, a guest room, and most importantly, room for Luna to move around comfortably. Luna, my 140-pound Newfoundland, was more than just a pet. She was my registered therapy dog, prescribed by my psychiatrist after I returned from Afghanistan with PTSD that made normal life feel impossible. The moving truck had barely pulled away when I saw her marching across my lawn. She wore capri pants, a visor despite the overcast sky, and carried a clipboard like it was a weapon. Her blonde highlights caught what little sun broke through the clouds, and her lips were pressed into a thin line of disapproval. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm Brenda Patterson, president of the Riverside Meadows Homeowners Association. We need to discuss your animal." I was covered in sweat from hauling boxes, and Luna sat beside me, panting happily. "Nice to meet you. I'm Xavier Quincy. What about my dog?" Brenda stopped a few feet away, eyeing Luna like she was a grizzly bear. "That is not a dog. That's a horse. Our HOA bylaws clearly state that pets cannot exceed 50 pounds. I took a deep breath, already feeling the familiar tightness in my chest that signaled my anxiety spiking. Luna is a therapy dog. She's protected under federal law. The Fair Housing Act requires reasonable accommodation for assistance animals. "I don't care what the law says," Brenda snapped. "This is a private community with rules. Either that beast goes, or you'll face daily fines of $200 until she's removed." Luna, sensing my distress, pressed her massive head against my leg. Her dark eyes looked up at me with concern. That simple gesture brought my heart rate down. That was what she did. That was why I needed her. "You can't do that," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I have documentation from my doctor. Luna is a medical necessity." Brenda's face flushed red. "We'll see about that. You have 48 hours to remove the animal or the fines begin. Welcome to the neighborhood." She spun on her heel and marched back toward her house 3 doors down. I should have known then that this was just the beginning. The next morning, I found the first notice taped to my door. It was printed on official HOA letterhead, complete with the Riverside Meadows logo of a badly drawn tree next to a stream. The letter stated that I was in violation of Section 7, Paragraph 4 of the HOA bylaws regarding pet weight restrictions. It demanded Luna's removal within 24 hours and threatened escalating fines and legal action. I spent the morning on the phone with my psychiatrist, Dr. Sarah Chen, who had originally prescribed Luna as part of my treatment. She faxed over detailed documentation explaining my PTSD diagnosis, my treatment plan, and Luna's specific role in managing my symptoms. I made copies and walked them down to Brenda's house. She answered the door holding a glass of white wine despite it being 10 in the morning. "Mr. Quincy, come to remove your animal." I brought the documentation proving Luna is a therapy dog. Under the Fair Housing Act, you're required to make reasonable accommodations. Brenda took the papers without looking at them. "I'll present these to the board. We meet next Thursday. Until then, the animal needs to go. That's a week away. And no, she doesn't need to go anywhere. The law is clear on this. So is our HOA agreement that you signed when you purchased your home." Brenda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I suggest you find temporary housing for your horse." I walked back home feeling my hands start to shake. This was exactly the kind of conflict that triggered my worst symptoms. The hypervigilance, the inability to sleep, the constant feeling that danger lurked around every corner. Luna met me at the door, her tail wagging slowly. I buried my face in her thick black fur and focused on breathing. That afternoon, I consulted with a lawyer who specialized in housing discrimination. Her name was Rachel Thompson, and her office was in downtown Santa Ana. She reviewed my documentation and listened to my story with increasing anger. "They don't have a leg to stand on," Rachel said, tapping her pen against her desk. "The Fair Housing Act is federal law. It supersedes any HOA bylaws. Therapy animals and emotional support animals are protected, and they can't enforce breed, size, or weight restrictions on them. So what do I do? I'll send them a letter explaining the law and the consequences of continuing to harass you. If they persist, we'll file a complaint with HUD and possibly sue for housing discrimination." I felt some relief, but I had learned in Afghanistan that just because you're in the right doesn't mean things will go smoothly. Rachel sent the letter that day via certified mail. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Thursday morning, I woke up to find my front yard had been vandalized. Someone had spray painted "No Dogs" across my garage door in red paint. My mailbox was knocked over, and my trash cans were dumped across the driveway. Luna whined at the window. Sensing my rising panic, I called the police. 2 officers from the Orange County Sheriff's Department arrived within 30 minutes. Deputy Martinez took photos while Deputy Lewis interviewed me. "You have any idea who might have done this?" Lewis asked. I hesitated. I had no proof, but the timing was suspicious. "I'm having a dispute with my HOA president about my therapy dog. She wants me to get rid of Luna because she exceeds their weight limit." Martinez looked at Luna, who was watching us through the window. "That's a beautiful Newfoundland therapy dog." "Yes, for PTSD." The deputies exchanged glances. Martinez nodded. "I'm a veteran too, Iraq. These dogs save lives." He looked back at the vandalism. "We'll file a report, but without witnesses or cameras, it's hard to prove who did this." "I understand." "Might want to install some security cameras," Lewis suggested. "We've had issues with HOAs in this area before. Some of them get pretty aggressive." After they left, I spent the afternoon cleaning up and installing a Ring doorbell camera and 2 outdoor security cameras covering my front and back yards. The whole time, my mind raced with dark thoughts. This was supposed to be a fresh start, a peaceful place to heal. Instead, I felt under siege. The HOA board meeting was scheduled for 7 that evening at the community center. Rachel advised me to attend and to bring Luna to demonstrate her training and demeanor. I arrived 15 minutes early to find the small conference room already packed with about 30 residents. Brenda sat at a table at the front with 4 other board members, all looking equally stern. Whispers followed me as I walked to the front with Luna at my side. She moved calmly, her massive paws silent on the carpet. I had dressed her in her official therapy dog vest, complete with patches indicating her certification. Brenda banged a gavel on the table. "This meeting will come to order. We have several items on the agenda, but first, we need to address the issue of Mr. Quincy's unauthorized animal." "She's not unauthorized," I said, keeping my voice level. "She's a legally protected therapy dog." "The floor is not open for comments," Brenda snapped. "I have reviewed the documentation provided by Mr. Quincy and his lawyer." She said the word lawyer like it tasted bad. While federal law does provide some protections for assistance animals, it does not give residents the right to keep dangerous animals on the premises. My jaw clenched. Luna isn't dangerous. She's a trained therapy dog with certifications from Therapy Dogs International. She's passed temperament tests and has worked in hospitals and nursing homes. A board member to Brenda's left, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, spoke up. Our concern is public safety. That animal could seriously injure a child or elderly resident simply by its size. That's ridiculous, I said, feeling my control slipping. Newfoundlands are known for being gentle. They're literally called nanny dogs because they're so good with children. An older woman in the audience raised her hand. I had a Newfoundland for 12 years, sweetest dog you could imagine. My grandchildren used to ride on her back. Brenda's face reddened. Mrs. Chen, please wait until the public comment period. This is absurd, the woman continued. You're bullying this young man because you don't like big dogs. Several other residents murmured in agreement. I felt a small surge of hope. Brenda banged her gavel again. Order. The board has made its decision. Mr. Quincy has 1 week to remove the animal, or we will pursue legal action to enforce our bylaws. This includes daily fines and a potential lien on his property. I stood up, Luna rising with me. I'm not removing my therapy dog. She's protected by federal law, and if you continue this harassment, I'll file a discrimination complaint with HUD and sue this HOA for every penny it has. The room erupted in chatter. Some residents applauded while others looked scandalized. Brenda's face turned almost purple. Get out, she hissed. This meeting is closed to you. I walked out with Luna, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. In the parking lot, Mrs. Chen, the woman who had spoken up for me, caught up with me. Don't let them intimidate you, she said. Brenda's been running this HOA like a dictator for 3 years. She once fined someone $5,000 because their rose bushes were the wrong shade of pink. Half the neighborhood can't stand her. Why do people put up with it? Mrs. Chen sighed. Most folks don't want the hassle of fighting. It's easier to just comply. But what she's doing to you is illegal. Stand your ground. I thanked her and drove home, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this situation was going to get worse before it got better. The next morning, I received a formal letter from the HOA attorney. It reiterated the demand to remove Luna and stated that fines would begin accruing starting Monday at $200 per day. The letter also claimed that Luna posed a clear and present danger to the health and safety of the community, and that my refusal to comply was willful disregard for the rules that govern our community. Rachel responded immediately with a letter of her own, citing specific case law where courts had ruled in favor of assistance animal owners. She also filed a formal complaint with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, alleging housing discrimination based on disability. For a few days, things were quiet, too quiet. I kept waiting for the next attack. It came on Sunday morning. I was in the backyard with Luna, throwing a tennis ball for her to fetch, when I heard shouting from the front of the house. I ran around to find Brenda standing on my lawn with 3 other HOA board members and a man in a uniform holding a catch pole. What the hell is going on? I demanded. We've contacted animal control about a dangerous dog on the premises, Brenda said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. This officer is here to impound the animal until a hearing can be held. The animal control officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, I've received a complaint about an aggressive dog at this address. I need to verify the situation. Luna's not aggressive. She's a registered therapy dog. I pulled out my phone and showed him photos of her certification, her therapy dog ID card, and the letter from my psychiatrist. The officer studied the documents, then looked at Luna, who sat calmly at my side, her tongue lolling out in a happy pant. She looks fine to me. What exactly was the complaint? Brenda stepped forward. That animal rushed at my grandson yesterday and nearly knocked him down. He could have been seriously hurt. That's a lie, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Luna and I were at a training session in Anaheim all day yesterday. I have receipts and witnesses. The animal control officer turned to Brenda. Madam, filing a false report is a serious matter. If what this gentleman says is true, you could face charges. Brenda's confident expression faltered. Well, I may have gotten the day confused, but the point stands that this animal is dangerous. Based on what I'm seeing, this dog is not dangerous and is legally protected as a therapy animal. I won't be impounding her. The officer turned to me. Sir, I recommend you document all interactions with your HOA. If they continue to harass you, that's something you can pursue legally. After they left, I stood in my driveway shaking with adrenaline and anger. This had gone beyond a simple HOA dispute. Brenda was actively trying to have Luna taken away from me. The thought of losing her made my chest tighten with panic. I called Rachel immediately. They tried to have animal control take Luna. Brenda filed a false report claiming Luna attacked her grandson. Rachel was silent for a moment. That's a crime. False reporting to animal control is a misdemeanor in California. Did you get the officer's information? Yes. Good. I'm going to contact the district attorney's office. In the meantime, keep documenting everything. Your security cameras are recording everything. Over the next week, the harassment escalated. Someone kept leaving bags of dog feces on my porch. My water was shut off twice, which the HOA claimed was for emergency maintenance that affected only my house. I received 3 more letters threatening legal action, each more aggressive than the last. Through it all, Luna remained my anchor. When I woke up at 3 in the morning from nightmares about Kandahar, she was there, pressing her warm body against mine until my breathing slowed. When anxiety made it impossible to leave the house, she gave me a reason to step outside. She saved my life every single day. I wasn't going to let Brenda take that away from me. 2 weeks after the animal control incident, I received a call from Deputy Martinez, the veteran officer who had taken the vandalism report. Mr. Quincy, I wanted to give you a heads up. We've been investigating the vandalism to your property, and we have reason to believe it was orchestrated by members of your HOA board. You have proof. We interviewed some neighbors after a separate incident. Apparently, this isn't the first time the board has targeted residents who don't fall in line. We're building a case, but it takes time. I appreciate you telling me. Martinez hesitated. There's something else. I told my sergeant about your dog and your background. We're actually looking for volunteers for the county's search and rescue program. Given Luna's size and breed, she might be perfect for it. Newfoundlands are natural water rescue dogs. I had never considered it. I don't know anything about search and rescue training. They provide all the training. I just thought, given what you're dealing with, having Luna certified as a working search and rescue dog might add another layer of legal protection. Plus, these dogs do amazing work. They save lives. The idea intrigued me. Luna loved water and had incredible stamina. And if it gave her additional legal protection while allowing her to help others, it seemed perfect. Who do I contact? Martinez gave me the number for the Orange County Search and Rescue Coordinator, a woman named Patricia Cole. I called her that afternoon and explained my situation. She was immediately interested. Newfoundlands are ideal for water rescue, Patricia said. We actually had one in our program years ago that saved 3 drowning victims during a flash flood. If Luna has the temperament and stamina, we'd love to evaluate her. The evaluation was scheduled for the following Saturday at a training facility in Lake Forest. I arrived early, my stomach churning with nerves. Luna seemed to sense that something important was happening. She stayed close to my side, alert but calm. Patricia met us in the parking lot. She was in her 50s, deeply tanned with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "You must be Xavier and Luna. Welcome." The evaluation lasted 4 hours. They tested Luna's swimming ability, her response to commands, her temperament around distractions, and her willingness to work. She excelled at everything. In the water, she was a natural, powerful swimmer who could tow a full-grown man to shore without hesitation. On land, she responded perfectly to voice and hand commands, even in chaotic situations designed to simulate real emergencies. "She's exceptional," Patricia said as we dried off. "With proper training, she could be one of our best assets." The formal training program takes about 6 months, but based on what I saw today, Luna might move faster. "Are you prepared to commit to that?" I looked at Luna, who shook herself dry and showered everyone nearby with water. Several team members laughed. She had already won them over. "Absolutely." We started training the following week. 3 times a week, Luna and I drove to Lake Forest for intensive sessions. She learned to locate victims in water and on land, to work in all-weather conditions, and to rappel down cliffs in a special harness. I learned emergency response protocols, navigation, first aid, and how to work as part of a coordinated rescue team. The training became my salvation. It gave me purpose beyond just surviving each day. The other team members were incredible, mostly volunteers from all walks of life who dedicated their free time to saving others. Many were veterans like me. They understood the nightmares, the hypervigilance, the feeling that civilian life would never quite fit right again. Meanwhile, the war with the HOA continued. Brenda filed a lawsuit against me in small claims court, demanding $5,000 in accumulated fines for violating the pet weight restriction. Rachel countersued for harassment and housing discrimination, asking for damages and attorney fees. The small claims hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in September. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s named Judge Ellen Park, listened to both sides present their arguments. Brenda's lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, argued that HOA bylaws were legally binding contracts and that I had agreed to follow them when I purchased my home. Rachel countered with the Fair Housing Act, multiple court precedents, and documentation of the HOA's harassment campaign, including the false animal control report, the vandalism, and the suspicious maintenance issues that affected only my property. Judge Park studied the documents for several minutes before speaking. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly. Mr. Quincy has a documented disability. He has a prescribed therapy animal that directly treats that disability. The animal is well-trained, certified, and has never caused any actual problems in the community. And yet, the HOA is demanding its removal based solely on its size." "Your Honor, the bylaws are clear," Brenda's lawyer said. "The federal law is clearer," Judge Park said sharply. "The Fair Housing Act explicitly prohibits discrimination based on disability. Therapy animals are protected, period. There are no weight restrictions, breed restrictions, or any other restrictions that can be applied to legally prescribed assistance animals." She looked directly at Brenda. "Furthermore, the evidence presented suggests a pattern of harassment and retaliation that borders on criminal behavior. The false report to animal control alone could result in misdemeanor charges." Brenda's face went white. Judge Park continued, "I'm dismissing the HOA's claims in their entirety. Furthermore, I'm ordering the HOA to pay Mr. Quincy's attorney fees and $3,000 in damages for harassment. Miss Patterson, if you continue to target Mr. Quincy over his therapy dog, I will hold you personally in contempt of court." Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, Your Honor," Brenda whispered. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. Luna trotted beside me, oblivious to the victory she had helped win. "That went well," Rachel said with a grin. "Judge Park did not hold back. Thank you for everything." "Just doing my job. And for what it's worth, Brenda's going to think twice before pulling something like this again." But Brenda wasn't done. She was just getting started. 3 days after the court hearing, I received a petition signed by 15 residents demanding a special HOA meeting to vote on emergency amendments to the pet policy. The meeting was scheduled for the following Wednesday. I attended with Rachel and Mrs. Chen, who had become an unlikely ally. The community center was packed with at least 50 residents, the most I had ever seen at an HOA meeting. Brenda stood at the front, looking determined despite her recent legal defeat. "Thank you all for coming. Tonight, we're voting on critical amendments to protect our community's property values and safety standards." The proposed amendments were clearly designed to target me while appearing neutral. They included mandatory liability insurance for pets over 75 pounds, requirements that large dogs be muzzled in common areas, and a ban on dogs being left in yards unattended for more than 15 minutes. Before the vote could proceed, Mrs. Chen stood up. "I'd like to speak against these amendments." Brenda looked annoyed. "This is a board matter." "Actually, under HOA bylaws, any resident can speak before a vote," Mrs. Chen said. "And I think everyone here deserves to know why these amendments are really being proposed." She proceeded to lay out the entire history of Brenda's harassment campaign against me, including the false animal control report and the judge's ruling. Several residents who hadn't been aware of the situation looked shocked. "What Brenda isn't telling you, Mrs. Chen continued, is that Xavier's dog is a hero. Luna is now part of the Orange County Search and Rescue Team. She's training to save lives, and Brenda wants to run her out of the neighborhood because she's personally offended by large dogs." Another resident, a man in his 40s, stood up. "I moved here 6 months ago with my German Shepherd, who's a service dog for my seizures. If these amendments pass, my dog would also be affected. This is discrimination, plain and simple." More residents began speaking up, many expressing frustration with Brenda's leadership. The meeting devolved into chaos, with people shouting over each other. Finally, a resident called for a vote of no confidence in Brenda as HOA president. Brenda tried to shut down the meeting, but the rules were clear. The vote proceeded, and she lost by a margin of 38 to 12. She was removed as president, replaced by a retired teacher named Tom Bradford, who immediately tabled the proposed amendments. I thought that was finally the end of it. But Brenda wasn't just vindictive. She was unhinged. 2 weeks later, I was at a training session with Luna when Patricia called me with urgency in her voice. "Xavier, we have a situation. A child is missing in the San Bernardino National Forest. We're mobilizing the team. Can you and Luna deploy?" Luna had just completed her basic certification the week before. This would be her first real mission. "We're on our way." I drove to the staging area, adrenaline pumping through my system. When I arrived, the scene was controlled chaos. Sheriff's deputies, forest rangers, and search and rescue teams from 3 counties were coordinating efforts. The missing child was a 7-year-old boy named Marcus, who had wandered away from a family camping trip that afternoon. He had been gone for 6 hours, and temperatures were dropping fast. Patricia briefed our team. "We're covering the northwest quadrant. It's heavily forested with several ravines and a creek. Marcus was wearing a red jacket and blue jeans. Let's bring him home." Luna and I worked with 2 other teams, spreading out to cover more ground. The forest was dense, the terrain rough. Luna moved ahead of me, her nose working the air and ground. I had learned to read her body language, to trust her instincts. We searched for 3 hours with no sign of Marcus. My legs ached, and anxiety gnawed at my gut. A child was out there, cold and scared. Maybe hurt. We had to find him. Then Luna's demeanor changed. Her ears perked up and she pulled hard on her lead, heading toward the sound of running water. I followed, trusting her completely. She led me down a steep embankment to a creek swollen with recent rain. And there, huddled under a fallen tree on the opposite bank, was a small figure in a red jacket. "Marcus," I shouted. The boy looked up, his face streaked with tears. "I'm scared, I can't get across." The creek was running fast and deep, too dangerous for a child to cross. I radioed our position to command and assessed the situation. I could make it across, but it would be risky. Luna whined, pulling toward the water. Then I remembered her training. Water rescue was her specialty. I unclipped her lead and commanded, "Luna, rescue." She plunged into the creek without hesitation. The current was strong, but Luna was stronger. She powered through the water, her massive frame cutting through the rapids. She reached Marcus, who instinctively grabbed onto her harness. Luna turned and swam back, towing the boy to safety. I pulled them both onto the bank. Marcus clung to Luna, sobbing with relief. Luna licked his face, her tail wagging. Within minutes, the other teams arrived. Paramedics checked Marcus for injuries while everyone praised Luna. Patricia hugged me, tears in her eyes. "That was textbook," she said. "Luna just saved that boy's life." The local news picked up the story. By the next morning, Luna's rescue was all over social media and television. The video from my body camera showed the dramatic creek crossing and Marcus clinging to Luna's back. It went viral, shared hundreds of thousands of times. I received calls from news stations wanting interviews. The Orange County Register ran a front-page story with a photo of Luna and Marcus together at the hospital. The headline read, "Therapy dog turned search and rescue hero saves missing boy." The story mentioned my fight with the HOA and how Brenda had tried to force me to get rid of Luna. The public reaction was swift and brutal. People flooded the Riverside Meadows HOA Facebook page with angry comments. Local news stations contacted Brenda for comment, and she refused, which only made things worse. I thought the publicity would finally end things. Brenda had lost her position, lost the legal battle, and now looked like a villain in a feel-good rescue story. Surely she would back off. Instead, she snapped. I came home from a training session 3 days after Marcus's rescue to find my front door ajar. My security system had been disabled. Heart pounding, I pulled out my phone and called 911, then cautiously entered with Luna at my side. The house had been ransacked. Furniture was overturned, papers scattered everywhere. My laptop was smashed on the floor. And on the living room wall, spray painted in red, "You and your monster will pay." The police arrived quickly, including Deputy Martinez. He took one look at the damage and shook his head. "This is escalating," he said. "We need to take this seriously." The investigation moved fast. My security cameras had caught footage before they were disabled. The video clearly showed Brenda entering my home with bolt cutters, accompanied by 2 men I didn't recognize. They spent 20 minutes destroying my belongings before leaving. Deputy Martinez arrested Brenda that evening at her home. She was charged with first-degree burglary, vandalism, and criminal mischief. The 2 men were identified as her cousin and her son, both of whom were also arrested. The story made news again. HOA president arrested after vandalizing hero dog's home, read the headlines. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman who had spent months trying to get rid of Luna over made-up safety concerns had committed actual crimes in retaliation. The preliminary hearing was held 2 weeks later. I testified about the months of harassment, the false reports, and finally the break-in. Rachel testified about the legal battle and the judge's ruling. The prosecutor played the security footage, which showed Brenda's face clearly as she spray-painted the threatening message. Brenda's lawyer tried to argue that she had been under extreme stress and wasn't thinking clearly. The judge wasn't sympathetic. "Miss Patterson, you have engaged in a campaign of harassment and intimidation against Mr. Quincy that culminated in breaking into his home and destroying his property. Your actions are not those of someone under stress. They are the actions of someone who believes they are above the law." Brenda was ordered to stand trial. Her bail was set at $50,000. The trial took place in January, 4 months after Luna had saved Marcus from the creek. The prosecution presented a clear timeline of Brenda's escalating behavior, from the initial confrontation to the break-in. They showed the security footage, the threatening letters, and the evidence of vandalism. The defense tried to paint me as the aggressor, claiming I had deliberately provoked Brenda by refusing to comply with HOA rules. It didn't work. The jury saw through it immediately. Brenda was convicted on all charges. She was sentenced to 2 years in county jail, 3 years of probation, and ordered to pay restitution for the damage to my property. Her son and cousin took plea deals for reduced charges in exchange for testifying against her. Walking out of the courthouse after the sentencing, I felt a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Luna walked beside me, tail wagging, completely oblivious to the legal drama that had swirled around her existence. Rachel met me on the courthouse steps. "Justice served. Thank you for everything. You fought for what was right. That takes courage," she smiled. "So what's next for you and Luna?" "More search and rescue work. Luna's incredible at it and I love being part of the team." And that was exactly what we did. Over the next year, Luna participated in 15 search and rescue missions. She found a lost hiker in the Santa Ana Mountains, helped locate an elderly woman with dementia who had wandered from her care facility, and assisted in recovering evidence in a criminal investigation. Each mission added to her growing reputation as one of the best search and rescue dogs in Southern California. The Riverside Meadows HOA underwent major changes after Brenda's conviction. Tom Bradford, the new president, was the opposite of Brenda in every way. He was friendly, reasonable, and actually interested in building a real community rather than enforcing petty rules. One of his first acts was to formally apologize to me on behalf of the HOA and to invite Luna to a neighborhood barbecue. She was the star of the event, with children lining up to pet her and adults praising her heroism. Mrs. Chen brought her grandchildren to meet Luna, and they spent an hour throwing tennis balls for her. Marcus and his family drove down from San Bernardino to attend. Watching Marcus hug Luna and thank her for saving his life brought tears to my eyes. This was why I had fought so hard. Luna didn't just save my life by helping me manage my PTSD. She saved other lives too. She was a hero, and she deserved to be recognized as one. The Orange County Board of Supervisors agreed. In March, they held a ceremony honoring Luna and the entire search and rescue team for their service to the community. Luna received a special commendation and a custom collar with a gold badge. The local news covered the ceremony, and once again, Luna's story spread across social media. I framed the commendation and hung it in my living room, right above the spot where Brenda had spray-painted her threat. I had repainted the wall, but I wanted to remember what we had overcome. My PTSD didn't disappear. I still had bad days, still woke up from nightmares, still felt the anxiety creeping in when things got too chaotic. But Luna was always there, her calm presence grounding me, reminding me that I wasn't alone. The search and rescue work helped too. Having a purpose, being part of a team, knowing that Luna and I could make a real difference in people's lives gave me something I had lost after leaving the military. It gave me a mission. In May, I received an unexpected phone call from a producer at a national morning show. They wanted to do a feature story about Luna, focusing on her journey from rejected therapy dog to search and rescue hero. I agreed, figuring it might help other veterans or people with disabilities who faced similar discrimination. The interview aired on a Tuesday morning. I talked about my PTSD, about how Luna had been prescribed as part of my treatment, and about the nightmare of dealing with Brenda and the HOA. I talked about the legal battle, the harassment, and finally the break-in that led to Brenda's arrest. Then I talked about Luna's transformation into a search and rescue dog and her rescue of Marcus from the creek. The show played the dramatic body camera footage, and I saw the hosts wiping away tears. "What do you want people to take away from your story?" the host asked. "That assistance, animals save lives. They're not pets. They're medical equipment, just as necessary as any prescription medication, and that anyone facing discrimination for their disability or their service animal shouldn't give up. There are laws protecting you, and there are people who will fight for you." The response was overwhelming. I received hundreds of emails and messages from people sharing their own stories of HOA discrimination, thanking me for speaking out and praising Luna. Several advocacy organizations reached out, asking me to speak at events or participate in campaigns to strengthen fair housing protections. I did what I could, but my main focus remained on Luna and our work with search and rescue. We trained constantly, always improving our skills, always ready for the next call-out. That call-out came on a hot July afternoon. A teenager had gone missing while hiking with friends in the Cleveland National Forest. The terrain was brutal, with steep cliffs and dense brush. The teen, a 16-year-old girl named Stephanie, had been missing for 12 hours. Luna and I were assigned to search a particularly treacherous section with deep ravines and unstable ground. The temperature was over 90 degrees, pushing both of us to our limits. We had been searching for 4 hours when Luna suddenly stopped, her body going rigid. She had caught a scent. She led me off the established trail, down a rocky slope toward a ravine. I followed carefully, trusting her instincts. At the edge of the ravine, Luna barked, the alert signal we had trained. I looked down and saw Stephanie about 15 feet below, lying on a narrow ledge. She was conscious but in obvious pain. "Stephanie, can you hear me?" I fell. "My leg is broken. I can't climb up." I radioed our position and requested a technical rescue team with ropes and equipment. Then I talked to Stephanie, keeping her calm until help arrived. Luna lay at the edge of the ravine, watching the girl intently. The rescue took 2 hours, requiring a complex rope system to bring Stephanie up safely. Paramedics determined she had a broken femur and possible internal injuries. If she had spent another night out there in her condition, she might not have survived. At the hospital, Stephanie's parents thanked me through tears. "You saved our daughter's life," her mother said. "Luna found her. She's the real hero." The rescue made local news again, adding to Luna's growing legend. Patricia joked that Luna was more famous than most celebrities in Orange County. But fame wasn't the point. The work was the point. The lives saved were the point. In September, exactly 1 year after Marcus's rescue, I received a letter from the Orange County Sheriff's Department. They wanted to feature Luna in their annual report, highlighting the county's search and rescue operations. They also informed me that Luna had the highest success rate of any search and rescue dog in the county's history. I read the letter to Luna while she lounged on the couch, taking up more space than should be physically possible. "You hear that, girl? You're the best." She yawned and rolled over, requesting a belly rub. Life had finally settled into a comfortable rhythm. The house felt like home now, free from the constant stress of Brenda's harassment. My neighbors were friendly, often stopping to chat and ask about Luna's latest adventures. The HOA functioned smoothly under Tom's leadership, focusing on actual community improvement rather than enforcement of arbitrary rules. My PTSD was manageable. I still saw Dr. Chen regularly, and I still had difficult days, but the frequency and intensity of my symptoms had decreased. The combination of Luna's presence and the purpose I found in search and rescue work had given me tools to cope that therapy alone never could. In October, I attended a fundraising gala for the search and rescue program. Luna came with me, dressed in a bow tie for the formal occasion. She charmed everyone, posing for photos and accepting treats from admirers. Patricia gave a speech about the importance of search and rescue dogs and highlighted Luna's contributions. In just over a year, Luna has participated in 19 missions, directly contributing to the rescue or recovery of 12 individuals. She represents the very best of what these incredible animals can do. The audience applauded, and Luna's tail thumped against my leg. I scratched behind her ears, overwhelmed with gratitude for this goofy, loving, heroic dog who had saved me first before saving anyone else. After the gala, Patricia pulled me aside. "I have a proposition for you. We're expanding the program and need experienced trainers to work with new dog teams." "Interested?" "Very. It's volunteer, but there's a small stipend for expenses. You'd be teaching other handlers and their dogs, passing on what you and Luna have learned." It was perfect. A way to give back, to help others develop the same skills and bond that Luna and I had built. I started training work in November. My first students were a young woman named Diana Martinez with her Belgian Malinois and an older man named Henry Clark with his Labrador Retriever. Both dogs showed promise, and both handlers were dedicated. Teaching them, I realized how far Luna and I had come. A year and a half ago, I had been fighting just to keep her. Now, she was a certified hero, and I was helping others follow in her pawprints. In December, I received an invitation to speak at a veterans conference in San Diego about the benefits of therapy animals and the importance of fighting for your rights under the Fair Housing Act. I accepted, bringing Luna with me. The audience was full of veterans dealing with their own struggles. I shared my story honestly, including the darkest moments when I wasn't sure if I could keep fighting. I talked about how Luna had given me a reason to get out of bed, how she had sensed my panic attacks before I even knew they were coming, and how she had helped me reclaim my life. Then I talked about Brenda and the HOA, about the months of harassment and the legal battle. I didn't sugarcoat it. I wanted them to understand that fighting for your rights is hard, that people will push back, but that it's worth it. "There are laws protecting us," I said. "The Fair Housing Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, these aren't just words on paper. They're tools we can use to defend ourselves and our service animals. Don't let anyone tell you that your therapy dog or emotional support animal is less important than any other medical treatment. These animals save lives." The standing ovation lasted several minutes. Afterward, dozens of veterans came up to thank me, to share their own stories, to pet Luna and take photos with her. Several told me they had been considering getting a therapy animal, but were afraid of pushback from landlords or HOAs. I gave them Rachel's contact information and the names of other lawyers who specialized in fair housing. If my experience could help even one veteran keep their therapy animal, then everything I had gone through with Brenda was worth it. Christmas that year was quiet and peaceful. I spent it at home with Luna, watching movies and eating too much food. Mrs. Chen invited me to her family dinner, and I went, grateful to have found a friend in the neighborhood. On New Year's Eve, I stood in my backyard with Luna at my side, watching fireworks light up the sky over Orange County. Luna pressed against my leg, sensing my slight anxiety at the loud noises. I focused on her warmth, her steady breathing, and felt my heart rate slow. "Happy New Year, girl," I whispered. "We made it." She looked up at me with those soulful brown eyes, and I swear she understood. The new year brought new challenges and new triumphs. Luna and I continued our search and rescue work, adding more successful missions to her record. In February, she helped find a lost Alzheimer's patient before a winter storm hit. In April, she located a missing hunter who had broken his ankle and couldn't walk out of the Angeles National Forest. Each rescue reinforced why I had fought so hard to keep her. She wasn't just my therapy dog anymore. She was a community resource, a trained professional, a genuine hero. In May, the California State Assembly passed a new law strengthening protections for assistance animals in HOA-governed communities. The law explicitly stated that HOAs could not enforce breed, size, or weight restrictions on legally prescribed therapy animals and emotional support animals. It also increased penalties for HOA harassment of disabled residents. Rachel called me when the governor signed it into law. "You did this," she said. "Your case, your fight, it brought attention to this issue. You changed the law." I didn't feel like I had changed anything. I had just refused to give up my dog. But if that fight had made things easier for others, then maybe all the stress and conflict had purpose. In June, I received an unexpected visit from Tom Bradford, the HOA president. He knocked on my door one Saturday morning, holding a large envelope. "Xavier, I wanted to give you this personally." Inside was a formal resolution from the Riverside Meadows HOA, praising Luna for her service to the community and officially recognizing her as an ambassador for the neighborhood. It was signed by every board member and over 50 residents. "We're also removing the pet weight restriction from the bylaws entirely," Tom said. "It was an arbitrary rule that never should have existed. And we're creating a community education program about service animals and disability rights, so what happened to you never happens again." I was speechless. This was more than I had ever hoped for. "Thank you," I finally managed. Tom smiled. "Thank you for not giving up. You made this neighborhood better." After he left, I sat on the couch with the resolution in my hands and Luna's head in my lap. We had won. Not just the legal battles, not just the fight against Brenda, but something bigger. We had changed hearts and minds. We had turned a hostile community into a welcoming one. In August, Luna was featured in a documentary about search and rescue dogs that aired on a major streaming service. The filmmakers had followed her on several missions, capturing her training, her work, and her relationship with me. They interviewed Patricia, Rachel, Marcus and his family, Stephanie and her family, and several other people whose lives Luna had touched. The documentary included the story of the HOA battle. They interviewed Tom about the changes implemented at Riverside Meadows and included news footage of Brenda's arrest and trial. The message was clear. Discrimination against assistance animals is not just wrong, it's illegal, and people who engage in it will face consequences. The documentary was well received, winning several awards and introducing Luna's story to millions of viewers. I received interview requests from around the world, people wanting to know more about this amazing dog who had overcome discrimination to become a hero. But Luna remained unchanged by fame. She still loved tennis balls, belly rubs, and swimming in the ocean. She still woke me from nightmares with gentle paws and a wet nose. She still saved lives, both mine and others, with unwavering dedication. In September, on the second anniversary of Marcus's rescue, the Orange County Board of Supervisors declared September 15th as Luna Day to honor her contributions to the community. There was a ceremony at the county building with hundreds of people in attendance, including Marcus, Stephanie, and many others Luna had helped rescue. I stood on the steps of the county building with Luna at my side, overwhelmed by the crowd and the recognition. The board chair presented Luna with a custom medal and read a proclamation detailing her achievements. Luna exemplifies the very best of what it means to serve others, the proclamation read. She has saved multiple lives, brought comfort to countless individuals, and demonstrated the incredible value of therapy and service animals. She is a true hero and an inspiration to us all. The crowd cheered. Luna wagged her tail, completely unfazed by the attention. She was just being herself, doing what she was born to do. That night, lying in bed with Luna sprawled across the foot of the mattress, I thought about everything we had been through. The fear and anxiety of moving to a new place, the shock of Brenda's hostility, the months of harassment and legal battles, the vandalism and break-in, the trial and conviction, and then the transformation, the search and rescue training, the rescues, the recognition, the policy changes, the documentary, Luna Day. It had been a journey I never expected, filled with challenges I never wanted, but I wouldn't change any of it. Because through it all, Luna had remained constant. She had been my anchor, my purpose, my hero. Brenda had wanted to take her away from me because she was too large, too inconvenient, too different from what Brenda thought a dog should be. Instead, Luna had become exactly what she was always meant to be: a lifesaver, a hero, and the best friend I could ever ask for. I reached down and scratched Luna's ears. She sighed contentedly in her sleep, her massive body relaxed and peaceful. "Good girl," I whispered. "The very best girl," and she was. Despite everything, because of everything, Luna was extraordinary. She had saved my life, saved the lives of others, and proved that sometimes the things people try to ban or restrict are exactly the things that make the biggest difference. The HOA had tried to ban my therapy dog for being too large. Now she was the county's search and rescue hero, honored and celebrated, changing lives every single day. Sometimes justice takes time. Sometimes you have to fight harder than you ever thought possible. Sometimes the people who should support you become your biggest obstacles. But sometimes, if you refuse to give up, if you stand your ground and fight for what's right, you win. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you. Luna taught me that. She taught me courage, resilience, and the importance of never giving up on the things that matter most. As I drifted off to sleep, I knew that whatever challenges tomorrow brought, we would face them together. Luna and me, a team, partners in this strange and beautiful journey called life, and really that was all I needed.